Good morning, it's Sandy with s.ranellearts, and today's prompt for World Watercolor group is fish for the nature prompt, the nature series. And this morning I am going to be doing a line and wash of this fish. So I Googled royalty-free koi, and I actually decided to try tattoos, and I was going to go with something a little bit more traditional for the carp or koi tattoo, but then this came up and it was so pretty and it's royalty-free, so I sketched it out. Not exactly sure that I think it would be nice on a square piece of paper, but I didn't do that. I'm going to line it with my Micron. I'm going to use the number 3, I think, although this looks pretty thick. I might want to go, I'll see. I'll start with the 3, speed this up, and then we'll do the wash on it. I made some changes. I'm going to erase this. I made some changes with the marker. There's something about sketching, the difference between sketching with a graphite and going over it with the marker. For some reason, the marker allows you to get just smoother lines, especially if you anchor your hand. And I usually make my corrections when I'm doing the marker, and that I like the way it comes out better. I can see what's wrong at the with the pencil stage and fix it as I'm going over it with the marker. Now, sometimes it's not always true. I don't love the shape of that, but I'm not going to worry about it. All right, and I'm going to get my paint set up and be back to do the wash. So I think this is going to be nice and loose, and so I think I will wet the whole thing with water. And then I will be back to bring in some color. I want to mention that I'm using B 100% cotton, cold pressed, 140 pound paper. So I've got that all wet, and I'm going to be using just a few colors on this. I am putting in some lemon yellow. That's my Winsor and Newton lemon yellow. And I'm just going to give the fish a light wash of that, especially in the places that I want to be the most orange. So I'm laying that in to give myself that glow, and I want the darkest oranges to be around his face. Make that a little looser. I'm coming back in with my Quinacridone Gold from Daniel Smith. And while this is still wet, I'm going to charge in some of the gold and let that really just have fun and run. And while this is still pretty wet, I'm going to make a nice loose mixture of the Perylene Red. All the colors are Daniel Smith except for the lemon yellow, which is Winsor and Newton. This is my Perylene Red. And I'm going to put that up towards the front, and it's nice and wet. I want it to run, I want it to bloom, It's fish, for heaven's sakes. So I stopped the video to let this dry. It's not yet dry, but this, I actually had to let the tail dry because I had lost enough water that I didn't want to go in and add more paint to it until I re-wet it. So I'm taking some clean water and I'm going to re-wet the tail. But you have to wait for it to dry, otherwise you get blooms. In fact, I'm seeing a little bit of blooming there that I wasn't really counting on, but I think it'll be okay. Now once I've got that wet, I'm going to come back in with a little bit more Quinacridone Gold, but it's going to be watery, and I'm going to take a touch of the red with it and get some of that color going in there, and I want it to be loose and flowy. So I might actually hold it. So my next plan is to fix this bloom right here. Take some clean water, and when I say fix it, I'm just really going to paint over it and see what we get. I don't mind it too much, other than the yellow comes out past it. So I'm going to wet it with clear water, and then I'm going to take mostly red, nice and watery mix of the Perylene Red, and maybe a little bit, tiny bit more pigment, and just begin to drop that in here. And actually it looks like I'm creating more blooms, but I'm doing that on purpose. So I'm going to get that around here, see if I can fix that line a little bit, and then see where else did I wet this. Not enough for my taste, so I'm going to go back in with a different brush. This is my number 10 Grumbacher round, and just put some more water, and I just want to pull this up a little bit more of this darker red. Bring this into the fin. And then I'm going to take this clear water on this number 10, and I'm just going to lead some of this paint over down into the bottom of his face. I haven't decided whether I want to blacken the eye like they did or just use watercolor on it. I haven't decided if I want marker or watercolor on that. So to take away a little bit of this hard line, I'm coming in with clear water, and I'm just pulling down some of this red and letting it just sort of bleed in there. And I want to make it a little splotchier and not so much straight lines, and maybe a little bit over from, pull a little red in there from the other side. I'll get the red out of there. This is the red brush, this is the clear brush, and just allow that to bleed a little. All right, I think I'll add a little bit more color into the tail here, and this one's a little darker than I would like, but I think it's okay. I'm just going to do a couple little touch-ups, and then I actually decided to give this a background. Now, after this, I'm going to wet my background, so I'll speed that up, and then I am going to come in with some of my blues and greens and do some water. So I'm going to do a little at a time. I am using the Lunar blue first. I have it on this palette off to the side, and I'm going to put that in first. So I'll put that all around, and I want to work quickly and get it just flowing and spreading around. And so I'm working in smaller sections so that it doesn't dry. And I'll come back and re-wet some of the sections and put that in there. And I'm going to mix that with, I went ahead and decided to add sap green because I really like the way that looked and gave me a little more of an aqua. So the sap green is being mixed with the Lunar blue. Not really, I'm mixing it, I'm letting it mix itself on the paper. I almost said canvas. Acrylic days. All right, and then some areas I'm just going to use green first and let the blue worry about itself. All right, and I was thinking I might come back with the green Apatite and put in some seaweed, but I don't think so. I can tell by looking at this that that is not going to be necessary, I think. I think this will probably just work just fine. So a little more. Now the green Apatite adds definitely a much darker. I'll just put a few of these in there because it's sort of, well, it's not sort of, it's just a really cool color and really cool effects, but it's definitely going to be darker than the sap. That's all right. All right, I'm going to work on this and I will be back. I think I will let that dry and I will come back in and add a few more lines on this fin and the eye, and that'll be the end. I think I can work on the eye now. That's actually pretty dry. Well, that's the finished fish, and I'm sure I could put a lot more details into it, but I wanted to make this nice and quick. So I'll go ahead and go post this. Thank you for watching.